The day Joanna accepted Daniel's confession, everyone thought I would lose it and fight Daniel to the death. But even when the confession ended, I never showed up, because Joanna didn't know that I was lying on her best friend's bed, holding her close, barely holding back a volcanic eruption. Chapter 1. The rich transfer student was going to confess to Joanna in front of everyone. Joanna had already told everyone in advance, asking them to keep it from me. What she didn't know was that someone eager to stir things up had already spilled the secret. Who didn't know I was crazy about Joanna? I dreamt of marrying her. This time, Joanna had also caught feelings for that guy. Everyone believed I would be furious, unwilling to give up without a fight. After all, who doesn't love a good drama filled with love, hate, and obsession? They were all waiting for me to snap, charge in, and turn the scene into chaos. But unfortunately, even when the confession was over, I still hadn't shown up. The crowd, packed tightly in layers, started losing interest. Even Joanna didn't seem all that thrilled. She clung to her new boyfriend's arm and pulled out her phone. No calls or messages. Joanna furrowed her brows slightly. Then she turned to the crowd and said, "Tonight Daniel's treating. Everyone here is invited." The students around cheered. It was only then that I stepped out from behind the bushes. Someone sharp-eyed noticed me and immediately shouted, "David! David's here!" I knew it. There's no way David would hold back and not come. Joanna suddenly looked up, and the moment she saw me, the corners of her lips curled ever so slightly. Chapter 2. I ignored those waiting to see the drama unfold and walked straight up to Joanna. "David." Joanna clung even tighter to her new boyfriend's arm. She looked at me, her voice calm. "You can't force feelings like this. We've known each other for over a decade. I don't want to say anything too harsh and ruin our past friendship. From now on, I'll still see you as a brother. If I ever need help, you can still come to my aid." After saying that, she lowered her voice slightly. "Everyone's watching. Don't make this awkward for us. Just leave." "Joanna." I cut her off and took a slow step forward. She furrowed her brows again, sounding irritated. "David." "Calm down. Just go home." I smiled and handed her the watch I had just taken off my wrist. "I'm only here to return this." Seeing the watch, Joanna's face instantly darkened. "David, what kind of trick are you playing now?" "Take the watch back, and I won't bother you again." Joanna stared at me, her voice growing colder. "I don't care about this kind of money anymore. If you don't want it, just throw it away." Before she finished speaking, I turned and threw the watch into a nearby trash bin. I said, "You can throw away all the other things I gave you, too." With that, I didn't look at her again and turned to walk away. Chapter 3. Joanna stood still, until my figure disappeared from sight. Her expression, however, remained somewhat sour. Her friends quickly tried to smooth things over. David's just trying to save face, pretending to be tough. Just watch, Joanna. By tonight, he'll regret it. Maybe as soon as we leave, he'll come back crying, digging through the trash for that watch." Hearing that, Joanna let out a chuckle. "Whatever he wants. If it weren't for the sake of our family's elders, I wouldn't have even bothered with him. All right, enough. Don't let him spoil our night. We need to celebrate properly tonight." Joanna glanced at her handsome and wealthy new boyfriend. She tossed my annoying face out of her mind. By tomorrow, she was certain I would be waiting at the dorm, acting like nothing ever happened, begging for her forgiveness so we could go to class together. Chapter 4. By the time I reached the riverside, the rain had grown heavy. I stood there with an umbrella, thinking about the dreams I'd had over the past few days. In those dreams, I was deeply disturbed by Joanna and Daniel's relationship and fell into the river by accident. When I fell, I injured my spine, lost half my life, and ended up with a permanent disability, never able to walk again. But in the end, Joanna never came to see me, not even once. I was adopted by the Ye family, and when they saw me like this, they thought I had no more value to them. So they sent me back to my birth parents, who were awful, abusive people. My life spiraled downward from there, and I died, miserably. After I died, it was the person I had always distanced myself from who collected my broken remains. Joanna, on the other hand, was happily married to Daniel, never showing up at all. Everything from my dreams had been coming true these days. If it weren't for those dreams, I would probably be calling Joanna non-stop right now. I'm grateful for those dreams. It feels like I've been reborn bit by bit, changing my tragic fate. On the third time dialing, the call finally connected. I gripped the phone tightly to my ear. The name Camilla hovered on my tongue a few times before I slowly said it aloud. The heavy rain drowned out the world's noise. Only Camilla's slightly tired voice came through softly. "David? Camilla, it's raining too hard today. I'm stuck by the river and can't get back. Can you come pick me up?" Chapter 5. There was silence on the other end of the line for a few seconds. I gripped the umbrella handle nervously, waiting for her reply. In my dream, when Camilla gathered my remains, it seemed like she cried. Her tears fell one by one onto my decaying flesh and bones. Even in the dream, I could feel the burning heat of her tears. Later, she kept a small bottle of my ashes with her for the rest of her life. She lived alone all her life. Thinking about that, I instinctively choked and sighed. Camilla remained silent. Then she asked, "Why are you upset?" I didn't say I wouldn't come. Embarrassed, I asked, "So when are you coming?" She replied, "Wait for me. I'll be there in 20 minutes. I said, "Okay, I'll wait for you, Camilla." She didn't say another word and hung up the phone. 15 minutes later, I gave my umbrella to a mother and child who were taking shelter from the rain. So when Camilla arrived, I was already drenched from head to toe. When she got out of the car, her lips were pressed tight and her face was cold as ice. I brushed aside my wet bangs and gave her a bright smile. "Camilla, you're right on time. David, you might as well be dead, you idiot," she said coldly, grabbing my arm and pulling me into the car. Then she tossed me a soft blanket. "Dry yourself off. Don't mess up the car." She glanced at me through the rearview mirror and told the driver to turn the car around. I wiped the water off my head. Then I looked up and started watching her through the window reflection. When she had no expression, she always looked distant and hard to approach. A lot of guys at school liked her, but none of them dared to confess. She was Joanna's best friend and also her roommate. I used to visit their shared apartment all the time to help Joanna move things, and whenever I was there, Camilla always seemed to dislike me. Even now, despite coming to get me, she still acted cold and indifferent. There was no sign at all that she had secretly liked me all along. I shook my head slowly. Everything from my dream had come true. But now, thanks to the changes I've made, many things have turned out differently. Does Camilla still like me? If she doesn't like me at all, then am I just adding more trouble for her? She suddenly asked, "Going back to the dorm?" Camilla glanced at me as she spoke. My heart skipped a beat, and before I could stop myself, I said, "Yeah, to your dorm." Chapter 6. Camilla suddenly burst into laughter and said, "Joanna's not coming back tonight. You won't see her even if we go." I awkwardly replied, "I know. I'm not looking for her." Camilla turned back to look at me, sounding exasperated. "David, are you just making me part of your little relationship drama?" She looked at me, her eyes deep and filled with countless emotions. Suddenly, I felt an inexplicable sadness. I sighed and said, "Camilla, you know it too. After what happened today, my roommates all laughed at me, calling me a simp, saying I gained nothing from it. I'm thinking of renting a place tomorrow. Can I crash in your living room for just one night? Of course, if it's not convenient, don't worry about it. I'll find somewhere else. After I finished speaking, Camilla didn't say another word, but the car was heading toward her dorm. Chapter 7. I followed Camilla into the dorm. She handed me a towel from the closet and said, "The bathroom is over there." After my shower, I hastily put on a hoodie and came out drying my hair, looking for a hairdryer. Camilla was sitting on the couch, eyes glued to the TV. She only glanced at me briefly before quickly looking away. I walked past Joanna's usual spot and sat down next to her. The shampoo and body wash on me were Camilla's. In the small space, the same scent lingered in the air, creating a subtle but undeniable tension. Camilla stood up, pressing her lips together, and said, "It's too stuffy in here. I'll go out to the balcony for some fresh air." She went to the terrace. I curiously looked around at the room's layout. The TV in front of the sofa was playing Pokémon. The coffee table was neatly arranged with books, a laptop, and her phone. Everything was very tidy. I was just about to take a closer look at a small ornament near the corner of the table when Camilla's phone suddenly rang. Joanna's name was flashing on the screen. I didn't answer. The phone rang again and again, almost without stopping. I called out to Camilla from the balcony. "Camilla!" She quickly turned around and asked, "What's up?" "Joanna's calling." Without hesitation, she picked up the phone and put it on silent. I awkwardly scratched my head, changing the subject. "I accidentally got the couch wet. I might have to sleep on the floor tonight." Chapter 8. Camilla looked at me, then at the wet spot on the couch before turning around and handing me a hairdryer. In a low voice, she said, "Just sleep in my bed tonight." I asked, "What about you?" She pulled out a chair, not even looking back. "I'm going to binge watch my shows." Oh. Camilla grabbed her headphones, just about to put them on when my phone suddenly rang. It was Joanna. Annoyed, I answered the call and said, "Joanna, what do you want?" Camilla frowned, but didn't say anything, just glanced at me before turning back to her screen. Joanna asked, "Someone told me they saw you go to our dorm. I'm warning you. Don't cling to me. The more you do this, the more I'll hate you." I was speechless and just about to respond. But before I could say anything, Camilla stood up and came over, straddling my lap and hooking her arm around my neck. Instinctively, I started to push her away, but she leaned in close to my ear and whispered, "David, tell her you're here for someone else." Her fingers brushed against the back of my neck, and my skin instantly heated up like it was on fire. My brow furrowed and my heart pounded in my chest. I looked down at her, and she looked up at me, her eyes gradually filled with desire. Hoarsely, I said, "Stop flattering yourself, okay? I'm here for someone else." As soon as I said that, she grabbed my phone and tossed it aside, burying her head in my chest. The next second, I clearly felt a volcano of heat rising within me. The buzzing in my ears grew louder, and my first thought was to get up and cool off. But Camilla clung to me tightly, lifting her head and softly whispering my name. "David." Her warm breath fell on my ear. I struggled to control myself, leaning down to kiss her lips. As she gently broke through my defenses, I tried to regain some sanity, saying, "Don't tempt me. I don't want to touch you in this place." Chapter 9. "David." She shifted her body, trying to adjust her position. The volcano inside me felt like it was about to erupt, fierce and overwhelming. In between breaths, she questioned, "If you don't want to touch me, why did you kiss me?" Camilla tilted her head, her forehead pressed against mine. As our breathing Entwined, I closed my eyes, trying to calm down. She added, "Also, do you even know how to kiss? My lips are swollen now." I gently placed my right hand on her waist, my left hand holding hers. Softly, I said, "Camilla, I'll be more gentle this time." As my words fell, my hands moved to her lower back. I pulled her close, pressing her against me. This time the kiss was long and tender. But toward the end, I lost a bit of control, and wasn't as gentle as I'd intended. She lightly hit me and, in between breaths, bit me. "David!" I tried my hardest to suppress the volcano, but it was already threatening to erupt again. Clearly, Camilla felt it too. Her face showed surprise, her ears turning a deep shade of red. The usually cold and distant goddess now looked shy and flustered. She bashfully said, "I'm going to take a shower." She stood up quickly, avoiding my gaze, and adjusted my shirt before saying, "You go to sleep." Chapter 10. Before I could respond, Camilla rushed into the bathroom. As the sound of water echoed from behind the door, I lay down on her bed and slowly began to drift off. Camilla was tall, with bright eyes and pearly white teeth, the recognized goddess of the campus confession wall. Yet, despite her beauty, she had never had a boyfriend, nor had she ever gotten close to a guy. Rumors even spread that she might not be into men at all. But after everything that had happened tonight, I couldn't help but think back to that dream of her growing old alone, and a wave of complicated emotions washed over me. As I lay on her pillow and stretched out, my hand accidentally brushed against something small, a pearl earring hidden beneath it. I froze. The earring looked familiar. It was the same one I had once given to the girls in their dorm as a gift, back when I was pursuing Joanna. I hadn't expected Camilla to keep it under her pillow all this time. Suddenly I remembered, in the dream, Camilla had kept this very earring with her for her whole life. I stared at it for a long moment, then gently placed it back beneath the pillow. Just then the sound of the hairdryer stopped. When Camilla came out, she was wearing a light beige cotton pajama set. The steam from the shower made her skin glow like jade. Her hair fell softly down, and for once her usual aloofness seemed to fade. In that moment, she looked incredibly sweet, almost cute. I was about to call her name when faint voices drifted in from outside the door. I froze, stunned. Among them, one was unmistakably Joanna's. Camilla was clearly flustered too, but she reacted faster than I did. By the time Joanna pushed open the door, my clothes were already shoved into the wardrobe and my shoes hidden deep under the bed. Camilla had pulled the covers up and was already lying down. Only a small nightlight was on, casting dim shadows across the room. I hid under Camilla's blanket, barely noticeable except for the slight rise and fall of the fabric. Even if Joanna came closer, she wouldn't notice anything unless she looked carefully. "Why'd you turn off the lights so early?" Joanna asked curiously. "I got a headache from the rain," Camilla replied, scratching the palm of my hand under the blanket. The bed was only about 4 feet wide, and with Camilla's height and long legs, she took up most of the space. My body was pressed tightly against hers, my breath brushing against her waist. I could feel the tension in her abdomen. All right. Joanna didn't bother turning on the lights. She sat down on a chair, picked up her phone, and started making calls. She tried several times, but no one answered. Her frustration was obvious. "Camilla, do you think David's doing this on purpose?" "Huh?" "Daniel just confessed to me today, and now David's acting like this just to mess with me. I saw on the news earlier about a college student jumping into the river over a breakup. I thought it might have been him, but when they pulled the body out, it wasn't. Then he tells me he's with some other woman now, and now he won't even answer my calls." Joanna tossed her phone onto the table. "He's doing this on purpose, just trying to ruin my night." After a pause, Joanna scoffed. I bet he'll be stuck on me for the rest of his life." "Maybe not," Camilla suddenly chimed in. Joanna looked surprised. "Not? Camilla, you've seen how he's been clinging to me these past 2 years. You never liked him either, always giving him the cold shoulder." Hearing this, I couldn't help but pinch the soft skin of Camilla. Chapter 15. That night, Joanna's birthday party was packed with people, just as expected. Joanna made her grand entrance in a stunning purple silk gown, the smooth fabric clinging to her slender frame and swaying lightly with each step, like starlight moving through the night. Daniel, looking confident and polished, wore a custom-tailored suit. From his cufflinks to his perfectly styled hair, every detail was immaculate. Together, the two of them looked like a striking pair. Daniel basked in the praise of his friends, but when he glanced at Joanna, she seemed distracted. "Joanna?" Daniel called her name a few times before she finally snapped out of it. "What is it?" "It's getting late. Everyone's hungry, but not everyone's here yet." "Who's missing?" "Camilla hasn't arrived." Daniel nodded. "Oh, and I remember David hasn't shown up yet either." Someone chimed in. "Yeah, it's Joanna's birthday. No way David would miss this." But Joanna cut them off. "I didn't invite him. Even if he comes, I won't let him in." Daniel tried to calm her. "Joanna, don't get upset. It's your birthday today. Don't let an irrelevant person ruin your mood, right?" Joanna looked at him and nodded. Daniel really was handsome, wealthy, and knew how to charm women. David, though sweet, wasn't what she wanted. So when Daniel appeared, she was instantly drawn to him. But after being together, she realized he wasn't as great as she'd imagined. This past month, David hadn't been waiting for her outside the dorm. They hadn't gone to class together, hadn't eaten in the cafeteria together. He had completely vanished from her life. Even when they crossed paths at school, he would turn and walk away. Joanna had to admit she wasn't used to it. That's all it was. Just habit. She wasn't used to someone who had always revolved around her suddenly becoming cold. She wasn't interested in David. Nor would she ever risk upsetting her family for a fake heir like him. But they had known each other for years. Joanna thought to herself, maybe tonight, if David can't resist and comes to find me, I won't need him to grovel. As long as he apologized sincerely, she would allow him to stay in her life. Suddenly, the door to the private room swung open. Guess who I just saw? The guy who entered looked eager to gossip, his eyes immediately falling on Joanna. "Who? Stop teasing us." "Yeah, spill it. It couldn't be David, could it?" "It actually is David. Joanna, we told you. David can't stay away from you." Chapter 16. See? He couldn't resist tonight, could he? Joanna didn't say anything, but the displeasure on her face quickly faded. Daniel, however, wasn't as pleased. His expression darkened as he tugged on Joanna's arm. Half pleading, half commanding, he said, "Joanna, can you tell David to leave? He's been clinging to you like a stray dog for so long. Just thinking about it makes me sick." Joanna looked at Daniel, finding him more appealing in that moment than she had earlier. Her mood suddenly lifted. Even though she had decided to forgive David, he still needed to be punished for making her angry these past few weeks. "Fine. Let him leave then," Joanna replied casually. "Who are you asking to leave?" David's voice came from behind, soft but clear enough for everyone to hear. The large room fell into a sudden silence, because everyone had seen it. The slightly open door had been pushed wide, and David walked in, with Camilla. Chapter 17. Joanna didn't move from her seat. But suddenly she threw the glass she was holding onto the ground. The shards cut her ankle. "Joanna, you're bleeding," Daniel said, flustered. "Get out! Joanna, I said get out, didn't you hear me?" Joanna stood up abruptly, angrily kicking aside the broken glass. Daniel stood there stunned for a while before finally storming out in anger. The rest of the guests in the room quickly followed suit, sensing the tension. Blood dripped from Joanna's ankle onto the floor, But she didn't seem to feel any pain. She just stared fiercely at Camilla. After a long moment, she finally pointed at her and asked, "Camilla, care to explain?" Camilla only smiled lightly and asked in a calm tone, "Explain what? Why is David here with you? You invited me to bring my boyfriend to your birthday party, remember?" Camilla clung to my arm, leaning against me closely. Joanna's anger flared like a cat bristling. She swept all the cups and glasses off the table with a furious swipe of her hand. She screamed, "Camilla, do you even know that David is mine?" Camilla asked. "Yours in what way? Is he your boyfriend, your fiancé? Or do you think just because someone once liked you, they have to stay in love with you forever while you get to string them along?" Joanna ignored her and continued, "You knew David liked me, and you still went behind my back. Is this how you treat your best friend?" With that, she reached out to grab my arm. I grasped her shoulder and shoved her hard, causing her to fall to the floor, her purple dress soaking in the spilled wine. I said, exasperated, "Joanna, stop flattering yourself and stop clinging to me. There's nothing between us, so there's no wall to be broken. Even if Camilla dug up your grave, she wouldn't find me. And by the way, I'm the one who sought her out. I don't like you. No, I haven't liked you for a long time. Did you hear that clearly?" I looked at her, realizing that I had long since let go. After all, any man with even a shred of self-respect couldn't keep liking someone who treated him like she did, like a toy to be called and dismissed at will. Maybe, during those years when we grew up together, there was a bit of vague affection. But after my true identity was exposed and her attitude changed, those feelings had long faded to dust. "David, what did you say?" Joanna looked like she'd just heard the most ridiculous thing in the world. She struggled to her feet and said, "You almost jumped into the river for me, and now you're saying you don't like me." I sighed. "I never intended to jump into the river for you. It's not that serious. Who do you think I am? The reason I went to the river that night was to find an excuse to see Camilla." Joanna froze, staring at me with wide eyes. After a long moment, she glared at me, gritting her teeth as she spat out her words one by one. "So that night the person in Camilla's bed was you?" Chapter 18. Yes, it was me. "Joanna, just focus on your own relationship. I told you that night I will never come looking for you again. And I meant it." With that, I didn't spare her another glance. I took Camilla's hand and turned to leave. "Camilla, let's go home. You wanted to see what the new place looks like, right?" But Camilla didn't move. She looked at Joanna with a calm yet sharp gaze. She said, "Joanna, David is my boyfriend. He has nothing to do with you. I don't want to hear you spreading rumors that he's somehow still yours." Joanna, completely losing her composure, turned to me and screamed in frustration, "David, you say you like me, then turn around and leave me for someone else. Do you think you're worth anything?" I shook my head and replied, "If you don't know what I'm worth, why don't you go home and ask your father?" Joanna fell silent. She glared at me with a twisted expression, her once beautiful face now filled with something ugly and unrecognizable. She said, "David, Camilla doesn't know, does she, that you're not really the true heir of the Ye family? Keeping such a big secret from her is not very nice, don't you think?" Chapter 19. Although I had already prepared for the truth about my origins to come out, hearing Joanna expose it so suddenly still caught me off guard. Seeing my reaction, Joanna laughed. "So, you have been keeping it from her. I knew it. Camilla is only with you because she thinks you're some rich heir. If she knew the truth, that you're just an adopted nobody, she'd ditch you in a heartbeat, wouldn't she?" "Joanna." Camilla suddenly let go. Chapter 20. As we reached the car, I stopped and called her name. "Camilla, do you believe me?" "What?" I looked straight into her eyes. She was wearing a light-colored silk blouse, her teary-eyed look making her appear delicate and vulnerable. It made her earlier actions of slapping Joanna seem even more captivating. I felt incredibly moved by her. For years, I had tried so hard to prove something, desperately clinging to any lifeline I could find. But it always ended in disappointment. The elders who once doted on me no longer cared. They didn't hit me, but their cold indifference was more than enough to crush a teenager's spirit. My biological parents were greedy demons, and I lived, in constant fear of being sent back to them, where my life would be ruined forever. Even the childhood friend I grew up with looked down on me. And until my last breath, I didn't realize there had been someone who had quietly loved me all along. Luckily, everything from that dream would never happen now. I said I really didn't go to the river because of Joanna. And also, I've never been with anyone before. You're my first and only girlfriend. David. Camilla stood on her toes and kissed me. I wrapped my arms around her shoulders, kissing her back. Finally, she gently rubbed my palm and whispered, David, I don't care about any of that, but hearing you say it still makes me happy. I nodded and said, I know, Camilla. I'm telling you this because I don't want anyone to throw dirt on my name. I'm doing this for you, but also for myself. With that, I smiled and pulled her in even tighter. Camilla, let's hurry home. You're dressed too lightly. You'll catch a cold. All right. She held my hand tightly, very tightly. And from that moment, she held it for the rest of our lives. Chapter 21. Before Camilla and I made our relationship completely public, I went to the Yi family and had a long conversation with the elders. In the end, with some help from Martin, the true heir of the Yi family, I regained my independence and was no longer tied to the Yi family or my biological parents. I chose this moment because I knew the Yi family and my biological parents too well. If they learned about my relationship with Camilla, they would cling to the Shu family like leeches, and I didn't want to drag Camilla or her family into that mess. As I left the Ye household, Ye Madam wasn't too pleased. David, we raised. You all these years spent millions on you, and we haven't gotten a single penny in return. But my mindset had completely changed by then. The Ye family had raised me for 16 years, and until the real Ye son returned, I had lived a difficult few years, but they hadn't starved me. Even Martin, who once harbored hostility toward me, had unexpectedly changed his attitude. It was true that he had once been involved in the decision to kick me out of school and send me back to my biological parents. But now he was also the one who helped me resolve my final issues and convinced Ye Madam not to air my dirty laundry publicly. Now, I was free. I was David again, no longer bound by anyone or anything. I was content. Madam, I bowed respectfully to Ye Madam. I will never forget your kindness in raising me. Easy for you to say. Ye Madam looked at me coldly. You couldn't even win over a childhood friend like Joanna. What future do you have? Forget it. Just go. I can't stand the sight of you. She waved me off. I didn't bother explaining further. I just shot Martin a look. Mom, I'll walk David out, Martin said. Her expression softened immediately. Come back soon, we're having dinner. Got it. Martin smiled and led me out of the house. We stopped in the garden. We looked at each other and suddenly both burst into laughter. Bro, I hugged him. After we graduated from university, David and I got married. We moved into our own home, and one day while David was taking a shower, I pulled out the pearl earring I had always kept. But this time, I put it on, and only the earring. When David came out of the bathroom, I was lying in bed completely covered by the blanket, pretending to sleep. Camilla. He kissed my cheek softly, his lips warm against my skin. It tickled, and my lashes fluttered, but I kept my eyes closed. David chuckled lowly and kissed me again before pulling back the blanket to get into bed. But as soon as he lifted the covers, he froze. Camilla. The soft glow from the bedside lamp gently illuminated the room, casting a warm light over me, the pearl earring glinting under my hair. Between the curves and shadows, the light accentuated every rise and fall, with the red of my skin stark against the pale white of the sheets. It was like delicate cherries in a jade bowl. At first I was shy. my body stiff with nervousness. But when I saw the look on David's face, all that tension melted away. I sat up and pounced into his arms, wrapping my arms around his neck. I whispered in his ear, "David, do you like it? You're staring so hard." I could feel every muscle in his body tense. His skin burned as if his blood was boiling. His Adam's apple bobbed, and it was incredibly enticing. I turned my head and gently bit his throat. It was like opening the floodgates, or waking a dormant volcano that suddenly erupted. In an instant, David flipped me onto the bed, taking control. His kisses were intense, deep, and overwhelming. I could hardly keep up. It felt like he was consuming me piece by piece. "Camilla." He kept repeating my name over and over, never tiring. When it became too much, he whispered tenderly, "If it hurts, bite me." I closed my eyes, nodding softly. My nails raked down his back, leaving scratches, and I bit into his shoulder, leaving deep marks, but it still hurt. It hurt so much I couldn't help but cry. David. Tears filled my eyes as I looked at him, feeling a bit aggrieved. He looked terrifying in that moment. I instinctively thought he wouldn't be able to stop himself. But David froze, pulling me into his arms. I clung to his waist, and suddenly I remembered that day at the airport. I couldn't help but ask, "Didn't you say back then that crying and begging wouldn't work?" The desire in his eyes hadn't faded. It was clear how much he was restraining himself, how agonizing it was for him. David hugged me tightly, his voice hoarse as he whispered, "I can't bear it." "Camilla, When did you start liking me?" I didn't answer. He hugged me even tighter, threatening, "Not talking. Then I won't tell you when I started liking you either." Despite the passion in his gaze, there was also an overwhelming tenderness beneath it. Unable to resist his persistence, I finally answered, "From the first time I saw you. David, I once thought I'd never get the chance to tell you." David kissed the corner of my lips and said gently, "It's all right, Camilla. Now we have a whole lifetime to be together." Yes, we have a lifetime now. Our fingers intertwined at some point, and as I leaned up to kiss him, he lowered his head and kissed me back, tenderly and deeply. "David, I don't think it hurts anymore. Do you want to keep going?" The room was soon filled with the kind of sounds that made one's face flush. They lingered for a long time. That night felt like it would never end, and even longer than the night was the lifetime we had ahead of us. In the midst of spring's tide, we would speak of our love softly,